It's doing its streaming stuff. So hopefully it all works out, because we do have a new link to the Zoom. So let's see. It's still loading it. It's getting there. Right. Why is it taking so much time? Okay, done, redirecting, and we are live. Perfect. All right, maybe we should just get started. 7:02. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know a lot of folks might be watching the presidential debate tonight. So all those who made it, thank you so much for joining us. And those who couldn't and have registered, you can always watch the presentation on our YouTube channel, and we'll go ahead and share that as well later. Okay, so my name is Rovina Nimbalkar, and I'm the Executive Director at NAMI, Santa Clara County. And before we start tonight's presentation, I'm just going to go over very quick NAMI, Santa Clara County's updates. So our helpline, which you'll learn more about today, is up and running from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, on phone as well as email. And we do have, you can walk in as well to our office Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. We have after-hour family support as well available on evenings and weekends. All our support groups are listed on our website. Our website is namisantaclara.org and offered over Zoom as well as in person. So you can check that on our website, anything that you'd be interested in. For our education classes, such as family to family, familiar to familiar, persona to persona, peer to peer, provider education, you can contact our helpline number 408-453-0400 and select option 1 for further details, and you'll be put on the interest list. NAMI Basics is on demand and on our website, and you can take it at your own pace, and so is NAMI Homefront. Our FaithNet program, the next Mental Health 101, is going to be on November 21st, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you need more details, please feel free to call our helpline number and you can get more information. Our community peer program continues to match via hospitals as well as self-referrals. And again, if you are interested in joining, being a peer, you can, a participant, you can go to our website and fill up the form. Okay, so NAMI Walk Silicon Valley, which is our largest fundraiser, as well as our a way for us to do advocacy on a very large scale, because we have over 1,000 people come together and walk for mental health. So NAMI Walk Silicon Valley is going to take place on Saturday, October 5th, which is almost in a few weeks. So I would like to invite all of you to join. This is going to be at the History Park in San Jose. If you have not registered yet, or if you have registered either as a team captain or a participant, we are offering weekly Zoom meetings, which is done by our events coordinator, Christina Alanis. And the information for the Zoom meeting is actually on our NAMI Walks website. So the NAMI Walks website is namiwalks.org/Silicon Valley, or even if you can Google NAMI Walks Silicon Valley, our page will pull up, and then you can check the Zoom information. So with the Zoom information, you'll get more details about how to register, what our recognition prizes are, all the fun stuff, and any questions you have about creating a team or participating or anything about the event, you can come in. We are also looking for volunteers for the walk. So we have been sending out emails to volunteer. Every volunteer is going to get a volunteer T-shirt. We've selected a lovely orange color this year for all of our lovely volunteers that are helping us with the walk. We've sent out the email too, or I think we haven't posted that on our website, and maybe we should do that too for people to sign up on the volunteer. Okay. The other thing I want to see before I introduce our speakers for tonight is that every Monday, we are sending out an email for the walk for people to register. And then you can win prizes. And so what we do is, if you register between Monday and Saturday, and then every week there'll be a prize that you can win, some really nice NAMI Walk swag. And then we're going to do, we're going to announce a weekly prize winner, and then you can pick your prize up on the day of the walk. So feel free to register soon. The sooner you register, you would enter in the prize and increase your chances. Okay, so now I'm going to come to actually, before that, let me mention who our keynote is. Our keynote for the walk, for the NAMI Walk Silicon Valley, is Dr. Mary Ann Divan, Santa Clara County Superintendent of Schools. And our honorary chair is Dr. Anna Lemke. She's an MD. She's MD. She's a professor of psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine and chief of the Stanford Addiction Medicine Dual Diagnosis Clinic. Okay, now I'm going to go over to introducing our speakers. So our speaker is going to be Jeanette Langdell, who joined NAMI as a volunteer on the helpline following a career as a program manager with NOVA and the city of Sunnyvale, where she managed various workforce development programs. She now oversees the NAMI's helpline team, as well as the volunteers and staff. And in her office, Jeanette is an amateur flutist. I said it right? Flutist? That's amazing. And a member of performing salsa dance group. So Jeanette has a lot of hobbies. Along with Jeanette, we also have Sylvia and Adrian, who are going to be also presenting. And Jeanette will be introducing Sylvia and Adrian too. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeanette, and let me know if you are able to share your PowerPoint or any questions. Before I log off, I'll still be here, but please feel free to put questions and answers in the Q&A section, and then the chat is also open if you want to post anything out there. So I'm going to make sure everyone can chat, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeanette.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So.
Okay, perfect.
Just making a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so thank you so much, Robina. And I am honored and excited to be this month's general meeting speaker because I love telling people about NAMI's helpline. So just a bit about myself. I was first introduced to NAMI by taking the family to family class, which I'll say just a bit more about later. But my husband and I both found that so helpful in working with our own loved one with a mental health condition. So when I retired from the city of Sunnyvale a couple of years ago, I wanted to volunteer, and the first place I thought of was NAMI. So I started out by working 4 hours a week on the NAMI helpline, which turned into 8, which turned into several more hours. And about a year and a half ago, I took on this role as being the coordinator of the helpline. Enjoying it very much. So I'm going to go through a presentation here, mainly focused on the helpline, which will touch on a couple of other services that NAMI has as well. And then towards the end of the presentation, I will introduce 2 of our helpline team members, so you'll get to hear from them directly. So here are some of the NAMI services that we talk about on the helpline. I won't dwell on them too much, but Rovina mentioned NAMI Walk, which again is October 5th. Everyone is invited. We have Helpline. We provide support groups, education, outreach presentations, and our Faith Net program, which targets faith communities because they are often the first place that people reach out to about when they have a concern about their mental health. And our overall thing that we want to impart on the helpline is that people who contact us are not alone. So why is it called Helpline? So the first thing I want to say is here's what we are not. So we are not a crisis line. I should say, I'll say more about our team, but we are not clinicians. We are not therapists. And when there is a crisis, we encourage people to call 988, which is the nationwide number for getting help with a mental health crisis, or of course, in an immediate emergency to call 911. We are not a worm line or a talk line. However, we can refer people who call us to places that are talk lines and can provide emotional support. We are a place to get help with mental health resources, a place for help with understanding mental illness and its impact, a place for help with learning about NAMI programs, which I'll say a little bit more later on, and most of all, a place for help and compassionate support from individuals with lived experience. And I will say more about what that means in a moment. So a little bit about our team. Our team consists of a coordinator, that's me, 8 helpline staff members and 2 volunteers, covering 10 shifts weekly during work hours, which are Monday through Friday from 10 to 6. We also have dedicated staff responding to voicemails after hours. So from 6 to 9 p.m. weekdays and from 12 noon to 6 p.m. on the weekend, you can leave a voicemail and you would get a call back from a helpline team member. So we have 2 helpline staff working each 4-hour shift. That way they can support each other, ask each other questions, ask about resources, because it's really hard to know everything. But between 10 staff people, somebody will probably know the answer. All of our staff have experience with mental illness, and this is what we refer to as lived experience. So either they have experience themselves, perhaps having their own mental health condition, or have a loved one with a mental health condition. In addition, everyone on the helpline has completed one of NAMI's 9-hour education classes, either peer-to-peer or family-to-family, which I will say a bit on one of the next slides. We also provide ongoing training to our team. We have staff meetings of all of our team twice a month. All of our team has completed NAMI Nationals helpline training, which is about 10 hours of training. And we also invite in regularly local mental health agencies and service providers, such as the Law Foundation. We get a lot of questions, legal related. The county's behavioral health navigators. We've had the public defender's office. Basically anybody that we think we could learn from in terms of a resource, we will invite them to present to our team. So I wanted to provide a few statistics. So we do keep track in a database of people who contact us. And by the way, contacts can either be by phone or by people coming in to talk to us, or by email, and I'll have a breakdown of that as well. So in the second quarter of 2024, about half of the contacts were from family and friends with a question about how they can support their loved one with the mental health condition. And about 40% were calls from mental health consumers or peers. And what that means is someone who identifies as having their own mental health condition. Those percentages recently have changed. So we're watching that because we are seeing more people calling who have their own mental health condition and are seeking support, and a little bit less from family, although that's still a really strong component of who contacts us. And the remaining percentage, we get calls from service providers, from hospitals, from social workers, from students. Just about anybody is welcome to give us a call. The average length of time that our staff spent on a contact was 22 minutes, including some documentation on that. Now I'm going to go talking about on an annual basis. Last year, we assisted about 3,000 callers and visitors. The majority of people were assisted by phone, and I'm including a voicemail on that when we return those voicemails I mentioned. That's 85%. About 5% of our help seekers walked into the office for help, and 10% reached out by email. What are the help seekers' concerns when they contact us? So most people were provided with the information on NAMI programs and community resources combined with overall support. I have a note there, of course, multiple concerns can be addressed in a single contact. The top things, people always wonder, what are the top things we get asked about? I would say number one is treatment, how to access treatment, how to help a loved one getting into treatment. We talk a lot about NAMI programs, classes, and support groups, which I'll mention again in a minute. And sometimes those are the ways that we help people resolve some of the issues that they bring to us, is through NAMI programs that we offer. We get a lot of questions about legal resources, including hearing from family who have a loved one because of their mental health condition may be involved with the justice system. And a lot of questions on housing, whether that's their loved one is homeless, whether they need emergency shelter, perhaps they're trying to find group housing or any kind of affordable housing, kind of an oxymoron in this area. But we do have several resources that we can refer people to. So just a bit more detail on the type of questions that we help people with. So from family members, we often hear, my loved one was just diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia. What do I do? How do I get them into treatment? We don't have insurance. What do I do? Also, how to send information to providers. So we get questions like, my son is in the hospital, but they won't talk to me. So what do I do? How can I provide information? I have valuable information. I want the hospital to know. How can I provide that? And we can give guidance in that area. My family member is in jail. What do I do? Believe it or not, this comes up a lot, to the extent that we actually have a dedicated support group to help with issues that come up when the family member is in jail or is involved with the court system. Another biggie, how do I help a loved one who's not willing to get help and are unaware that they may have a problem? There's even a name for that. It's called anosognosia. It is really a symptom of a mental health condition. We have suggestions around how to communicate with the family member going through that. A lot of what we do is helping people find support, whether it's for themselves or whether it's as a family member. It can be a real challenge supporting a loved one with a mental health condition. So we do have dedicated support groups for family members. We have one that's just for family of young people up to age 26. And then our regular family support group mostly has family members that have adult loved ones that they are supporting. And then we have our peer support groups called Connection. I'll mention that again later. We get a lot of questions about how to access financial benefits. With an individual with a disability, which is what a mental health condition is considered, will have access most likely to financial support through Social Security, whether it's SSI or SSDI, and we can help them get started with that or get help with an appeal if they've been denied for financial resources. Housing, again, is a huge one, and it's a very challenging, difficult area, but we can refer people to agencies and online resources that can help with that. And all along, we provide hope to our callers and visitors, and we want them to know they are not alone. Sometimes they feel very alone. They haven't talked to anybody else about what's going on in their family. So it's really a relief sometimes when they call the helpline and they get people with this experience and know exactly what they're going through. Here's those classes I mentioned. Often we on the helpline refer people to these classes and we can sign people up for them. What we do is we put them on an interest list. And then when the next class is about to start, they will get a call from the class coordinator. So our family to family class is for parents or caregivers of adults living with mental health conditions. It teaches about communication, what to do if there's a crisis, and really builds a support community among the class members. It's free, it's 9 weeks. One just started, so the next one will probably start in January, and that's usually offered in person here at the NAMI office. Our peer-to-peer class is for people living with a mental health condition. It teaches the skills and tools to manage recovery. It's also free. It's also 9 weeks, led by peers, so they know what someone is going through. It's usually offered in a hybrid format, both in person and virtual, but that can vary. The helpline will always be aware and be able to tell callers what's happening with both of those classes. We also have several kinds of support groups I wanted to briefly mention. So Connection for adults living with a mental health condition is offered 3 times a week on Sunday afternoons at 3 o'clock. It's here in person at the office. That can also be accessed online. And then it's also often offered Monday and Thursday evenings online. Our family support group is here in the office the first Tuesday of the month. And then the second and fourth Tuesdays, it's offered virtually. We have a support group for transition age youth. This is offered once a month for adult family members caring for a loved one with mental health condition, age 14 to 26. So that age group may have some unique challenges, is often when symptoms first appear. So that helps family members get through that and learn more about what's going on. And then for those with a loved one who has ended up in jail or is involved with the court system, we have a jail court support group. It was started by 2 moms who went through this themselves with their own children. And they have just developed so much expertise along the way, including contacts with the jail and court. So highly recommend that. That's once a month. I believe it's the first Wednesday of the month. Online. I wanted to just touch on some trends that we noticed last year while we work on the helpline. First is that housing resources are very scarce. Family members with a loved one with a serious mental illness, they can't always have that loved one live with them, but it's really hard to find other kinds of appropriate housing, which might include group homes, licensed and unlicensed. Those are difficult to find for someone with a mental health condition. And there are no long-term residential treatment facilities in this area. So sometimes it forces people to go outside of the area if that's what they need in their family. We do have, on the positive side, about a year and a half ago, the county rolled out their TRUST team, which stands for Trusted Response Urgent Support Team. That is a non-law enforcement team. It has a clinician, a social worker, and a peer, someone with their own mental health condition. They can come out on site to someone's house and talk to the family or talk to the loved one and try to get them into treatment. That is it's not for a crisis, but it's for less acute mental health needs. We are really fortunate to have that team in our county, and we make a lot of referrals to the TRUST team. And we continue to see many families with loved ones in jail. Our jail and court support group definitely helps with that. And the county also have an Office of Family Affairs, which is really helpful in navigating the court system since they are part of the county. They can kind of be a liaison with the court system. So that's another great resource on the positive side. And here we are. Now I'm so fortunate to be introducing two members of our helpline team. They're going to provide their own unique perspectives about working on the helpline team. They're going to talk about what brought them to NAMI, why do they like working on the helpline team, and perhaps even mention a couple of calls that they have handled to give an example of the types of calls that we get or visits that we get. So let's start with Sylvia. Since she's top on my screen there, I'm going to start with Sylvia. So go ahead and unmute, Sylvia.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, I am Sylvia, and I came to NAMI about 3 years ago when a loved one was hospitalized for a manic episode. And I was scared, as anyone would be. It kind of came out of the blue. The psychiatrist at the hospital told my son to tell me to contact NAMI because he said you can learn more about bipolar, and he thought it would be helpful. So I was scared, confused, feeling very alone. And I had this ugly thing called stigma. I wasn't really talking to my friends. I mean, I might have talked to a couple of good friends, but because they didn't have a loved one with a mental health condition, they couldn't really understand what I was going through. So I did. I called NAMI and I spoke to a lovely woman who still works with us, thankfully, who totally took my anxiety from here down quite a bit. She had empathy. She made me feel less alone. And she explained the support groups and the family to family class. And I said, you know, I have to do these things. So I joined support groups. I signed up for the class. And after 9 weeks of the class, I said to the facilitator, this is what I should be doing. How can I do this? And she said, well, fill out an application, blah, blah, blah. So fast forward, you know, another 6 months, and I was brought in to work on the helpline, and it's the best career decision that I've ever made. My background includes educational consulting, where I had my own business and I was working with at-risk youth and young adults, not just with mental illness, but a lot with substance abuse. And I found that very stressful, but it really, you know, inured me to dealing with a crisis situation. So I thought that NAMI would be a natural fit. So after, you know, a month or two of training and shadowing, we shadow someone before we actually get on the phone. So when I started working, I was a little like nervous when I pick up the phone, and I'm still, I wouldn't say nervous at all, but your heart rate goes up because you never know what you're going to get when you answer the phone. Most callers are very emotional, scared. And so I think back to the woman who answered my call, and I remember that empathy is the key. So not just empathy, but because as Jeanette said, we all have lived experience. I mean, I have a lot of experience now, and if it's relevant, I relate my situation to theirs, and that really helps a lot of people feel like they're being heard for the first time. So an example, this week has been intense. I work on Mondays and Tuesdays. Yesterday, we had a walk-in. A father came into our office, very upset. His son was just diagnosed, and as Jeanette said, when they're first diagnosed, that's one of the hardest times, with a serious mental illness, and he was hospitalized. This father was raised and had lived his life in the kind of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And he had been telling his son, who'd been having issues, just get over it, figure out, go for a walk, do whatever. But now that he was hospitalized, he realized he needed education. So he came in, and I spent about an hour with him, which is much longer. As Jeanette said, the average call is like 22 minutes. Because we're not clinicians and we're not therapists, that's not what we do. We try and limit it to providing resources. But I knew he needed to be calmed down. So he wanted to get educated, and he asked if we had any books. So I went into our library and I brought out 4 books, and he took all of them. We asked for a $20 donation for each book, and he had $80 in his wallet. He took the books home and he said, "Thank you so much. I'm going to share them with," he has adult daughters who have been trying to help his son. We're going to read these. And he seemed hopeful. And I was like, that was a good thing. So one thing that we talk a lot about with family members is setting boundaries. Like I said, we aren't therapists, we aren't clinicians, so we don't necessarily help them set boundaries. That's not our role. But that we refer them to groups that can help, like Al-Anon with setting boundaries, which I went to myself. Sadly, many of our callers have a loved one at home where the situation is untenable, as Jeanette said, and it can even become dangerous. Today, I had a caller with a 14-year-old daughter who is becoming violent, physically violent towards the mom. And she was very, very scared. I talked to her twice on the phone today, and we ended up, and I talked to my colleagues. I work next to another helpline person, and luckily Jeanette was in today, and we all talked about how to help her, and we referred her to call 988 and ask for Pacific Clinics, which is the mobile crisis team that helps with youth who come to their home. She didn't want to call the police. I guess her daughter had been arrested in the past and ended badly. So this is a mobile crisis unit that comes out with non-law enforcement. So I sent her a lot of emails. We went back and forth. And then at the end of the day, she sent an email saying, "Thank you so much. I finally spoke to someone who understands the severity of the situation." So that was another day where I felt like, thank goodness I do this. This is where I belong. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. We are really fortunate to have you on the team. I know it's not always easy, and thanks for sharing those personal examples of the types of calls that we get. So I'm going to turn it over to Adrian now, another member of our helpline team, who'll provide his perspective as well about working on the helpline. So go ahead, Adrian.
Hello, my name's Adrian. A little backstory about myself. I have a mental health condition. The onset of my mental health condition was the latter portion of my college career. So I think I've done some research, and I've been have a lot of lived experience regarding I'd say I'm going to be 46 in October, but I was diagnosed in early 21. I was showing signs of mental health condition. I was decompensating really rapidly. I was going to school down south, and it was a very terrifying time in my life. Just because there was a combination of extreme academic stress to get good grades, a rigorous curriculum, combined with these deteriorating mental health, and the way my mental health symptoms begin to manifest they were very like depression and just bouts of depression and anxiety, and I paid no attention to it just because I thought everyone would just stress from school, but they became more and more prevalent, and they were cyclical in nature, where I just had these bouts of anxiety where I couldn't even make it out of my apartment. And then I'd be depressed. Unfortunately, I found alcohol as a way to cope with these emotions and um, these mental health conditions, which was to say the least was a disastrous result because I became a pariah in many of my social circles in school because they from what I now know is it's untreated undiagnosed stigma from an untreated undiagnosed mental health condition. People were they didn't know how to deal with me. And many of my friends um, became very concerned about me, but also, like I said, I became a pariah to some of my social circles just because I was untreated and undiagnosed. Fortunately, I had finished my upper division units, and I had just basic just fluff units that I was able like the onset. I mean, I don't wouldn't wish a mental health condition on my worst enemy, but if it was going to happen, I'm glad it happened when the hard part of my my academic career was over. That being said, I went back home, and this time as time was progressing, I was getting worse and worse. I moved back home to my parents' house, and my parents knew right away that something wasn't right with me. Um, at this point, I was getting messages from radio broadcasts, and I wasn't doing any illicit drugs or anything like that. It was all organic in my mind. I was getting radio broadcasts. I thought music in department stores was playing just for me. I was just very terrified, and I also was developing a alcohol um, addiction as well, just to cope with my reality. Um, Jeanette alluded to anosognosia. I did have anosognosia for the longest time, where I thought that reality um, was my reality, and no one, and even though my behavior and moods were so erratic and I didn't see it myself, so it was just a terrifying time. And I was telling my mom earlier today, mental illness, mental health conditions, mental illness is not for the light of heart. And I was kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, and I learned really quick that it's not really quick. It's 21. I was diagnosed at 21, and now I'm 40. I'm going to be 46. So it's been quite a journey. Very scary, very up and down. But I kind of see myself I like to use the analogy of an ascending stock where you have these little dips. Like sometimes the dips in the beginning were way down, then they kind of come back up. But um so I attribute a lot of my success to just the support network I have. My parents never gave up on me. And how I heard of NAMI was through my mom. My mom, I was hospitalized for the first time. There's been numerous hospitalizations, unfortunately, or fortunately, just depending on how you want to see it. But uh, I was hospitalized, and when I was hospitalized, my parents took the family to family class, and my mom told me about NAMI. I think she did some research on her own. She found NAMI, and I took the peer-to-peer class. I've taken the peer-to-peer class 2 or 3 times, but I just wasn't ready to get it, if that makes any sense. Wasn't ready to accept that I had a mental health issue. Um, this last go around has been eye-opening because I finally not it's been hard for me to accept that I have schizoaffective bipolar type, but I know I do. And some days are harder than others. But this last go around I took the peer-to-peer class, and the peer-to-peer class opened through NAMI has opened so many doors for me. Um, and I just want to thank NAMI as a whole, as an organization, how supportive and nurturing they are as a group. And I love my helpline team because they understand completely, and they don't judge. And that's some of the most, I mean, I can be very effective employee if I'm not discriminated against because of my mental health condition. And NAMI is a wonderful place to grow as a person, and try test the waters. And I know I'm kind of going on a long spiel, but working on the helpline has been immensely beneficial to the people I help, and has been beneficial to myself because I get to give back to people that are going through what I've gone through, and it just really makes me feel like $1,000,000 when I'm delved into my lived experience, and I have a wealth of lived experience, and how to help that person. Just for example, my heart goes out to the college kids, because that's usually the onset of mental health conditions. This for young men, I think it's in their early 20s, late teens. And my heart goes out to young men, young women that are college years, because it's kind of like it's like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do now that this has happened? What am I supposed to do? It feels like your life has been crushed, once you get your diagnosis. And it's just not fair. And I just tell them, there was a girl that she wanted to study computer science, and she was upset. And I just told her, it's not, first of all, it's not your fault that this happened to you. Never blame yourself for having a mental health condition. It's not your fault. And secondly, don't compare yourself to other people, because you were thrown a curveball, and that is not, and the worst thing you can do is compare yourself to somebody else in that particular circle, because they're doing this, and this, and setting up a social prescription. By this age, I want to do this. By this age, I got to do this. Your social prescription is kind of off the chart at that point, and just don't compare yourself. And I do inner own voice speeches as well as the helpline. And that's my message too in the inner own voice speeches, is just like I try to convey my lived experience, and try to be a beacon of hope for people that are going through what I have gone through, and to try and just try to convey a message of resiliency. But with the helpline is just opened so many doors for me. And I have such an affinity for the people I work for and the helpline team. There was a walk-in, and she had a son that he was having a tough time, and he was having a really tough time. And he was living at home, and he was smoking marijuana to self-medicate. And I told her that I was dual diagnosed. And I gave her some pointers on, maybe, give him space, and maybe if he could hear it from somebody other than mom. I know moms are awesome. I love my mom. And if he could hear it from somebody other than mom, it might be a little bit more conducive for him to uh, be willing to take the guidance. And that's just from my experience. I didn't want to hear it from mom, but mom was right all along. I just had to hear it from somebody else. And so she took that advice, and I think it worked pretty well. And I saw her at a inner own voice get together, and she was very, very happy with the information I conveyed to her. And so it made me feel good, because I was able to help her and it's all lived experience, and that's, as a peer working on the helpline. um my lived experience is the most valuable thing. I never thought my liabilities would become assets, in the sense where all the stuff that I've been through, I'm able to help somebody with what I've gone through, and I can convey that in a way where people can say, "Oh, okay," and say, "And don't do this. Maybe you should try this." Not in a therapeutic way, but just in an experience wisdom kind of way. I can convey, or that kind of that lived experience. It's a kind of a wealth of knowledge for me, just because um, I've lived it. And I work two jobs now. I work at Recovery Cafe too. I'm off of SSDI. I thought I was going to be on SSDI for perpetuity, but I'm off of SSDI. I've graduated from SSDI, and I attribute that to the programs manager and Jeanette for giving me a chance at the helpline to see if I could do. And I'm just going a little bit at a time, steadily opening up, getting more and more hours. And it's not easy work. I do resources. They go in tandem, because I do resources at the Recovery Cafe, and I also do resource and empathy for not empathy, but I do resources for the helpline as well. But I do have empathy. I have the utmost amount of empathy for the people that I'm helping in both jobs. And if there's any kind of silver lining in what I've gone through, it's just the amount of empathy I have for people as human beings. The amount of empathy I have for people is before I wouldn't say I was just kind of like ignorant to the fact of what the amount of suffering somebody with a mental health condition actually goes through. And now having gone through what I've gone through, I have the utmost amount of just compassion and empathy because I'm right there with them, and I know exactly how hard certain days can be. Um, and the helpline is amazing, and I love my job. I have tough time. Like I said, like I am like kind of like an ascending stock, so I'll have some dips. But overall, it's been an amazing journey. I don't know. It's amazing. And I owe a lot to NAMI. I really mean that. So that's all I got.
Wow. Thank you so much, Adrian, for relating your personal story, which I know you do on a regular basis through our In Our Own Voice program, which we appreciate. And that's just two examples of the kind of lived experience that our team has. We all bring that lived experience. And so we know what our callers and the people that walk in to talk to us are going through. And that's really, I think, our secret sauce is the empathy, as Adrian said, the empathy that we bring to our callers and to the people that walk in to talk to us. Let me see. I think I have one more slide here. So I have a success story to share. This is a real story with a made-up name, but it's a real story. So it's an interesting one because it involved a number of different resources and even originated out of state. So our caller was named Christina. She lives in New York. Her brother, who has a mental health condition, was in jail and also had some health issues. She had no other family locally, and she was very concerned about her brother getting proper health treatment in the jail because she thought, he's probably not telling them about what kind of treatment he needs in the jail. And she also didn't know what to do to support him through the court system. So our helpline staff connected her directly with medical staff at the jail so she could discuss her brother's health issues and also let her know how to send her brother's health history to the jail. As I mentioned, sometimes you can't get information going the other way. Sometimes because of HIPAA, you can't get information about your family member's health condition, but you can certainly provide it. And we have a form that we provide to family members that lets them, helps them provide that information to healthcare providers. So we provided that to Christina. We also referred her to Santa Clara County's Office of Family Affairs, which got involved and contacted her about attending her brother's court appearance on her behalf and her brother's behalf, which they did. And she later emailed the helpline staff to say, "Thank you so very much for devoting such love and care into helping me and my brother and families in similar circumstances. It's getting very cold here in New York, but right now I'm filled with a wonderful warmth." So I'm just going to share a couple of resources that we have about the helpline. These are available. Just contact us. Just call the helpline. These are actually wallet-sized cards that we are happy to provide. We have thousands of them. We are happy to provide these to anybody in the community. So just let us know if you need some at your organization. We also have a flyer that gives a little bit more information about the helpline, the kind of things that we can help with, and also all of that good contact information. And we can provide that electronically as well. So to summarize, Helpline is a free peer support service which provides information, resource referrals, help, and compassionate support. Sign-ups for our classes. And you can call us Monday through Friday from 10 to 6. There's the phone number. Just press option 1. You can walk into the NAMI office, which is at 1150 South Bascom Avenue, Suite 24. You can walk in Monday through Friday from 10 to 2, and our helpline team will be happy to assist you. Or you can even email us at info@namisantaclara.org if you're not able to call, or if you want to just start the contact with the helpline team that way. That works as well, and somebody will immediately get back to you either by phone or email. So that is all about the NAMI Santa Clara County Helpline. I am happy to open it up for questions now, whether you want to put something in the chat, or if Robina opens it up, you can just speak up, and
Yeah, they can just raise their hands and we can allow them, they can speak.
Okay, great.
Does
Well,
anyone have any questions?
my team here to answer questions as well.
Yeah. Any questions? I don't see any questions. Don't see anyone raise their hands. So maybe we can just end, and then if you have questions that you want to ask later, you can always call, or folks that are going to watch it on YouTube later on, you can always call or just email us, and we are more than happy to assist you. But before we sign off, thanks Jeanette, thanks Sylvia, and thanks Adrian. Thanks for doing the presentation, and thanks for sharing your stories, Sylvia and Adrian. I think it takes a lot of courage to share your story, and it takes a lot of courage to do the work that all three of you are doing, and the rest of the helpline team is doing. So I want to thank all of you, the helpline staff, the volunteers, everyone, for doing this work. I know it can be really hard when you get such calls and when you have walk-ins, and it can be really emotionally draining too, but you guys are warriors and you guys do amazing. I see some thank yous in the chat here. They're saying, thank you so much for the great information. There's another comment. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and providing such helpful information. I am sure that, even though we didn't have a lot of people attend tonight, I'm pretty sure that, people are going to find this very helpful when they watch it on YouTube. And again, thank you for making time for doing this presentation on a Tuesday evening. And I'm going to give you back your 5 minutes so you can go and have a good rest of the evening. But again, thank you so, so very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robina, for the opportunity. We were happy to talk about Helpline.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good night, everyone who joined us.